On the world map, there are blank space regions humans have yet to fill. A zone like that is not on another planet. It exists right here, wrapped between crashing waves and salty breezes. The Mediterranean. But not the Mediterranean from your school atlas. This is the untold version, a deep chronicle of seafarers and empires. Picture hunter-gatherers 8,500 years ago, paddling primitive boats between Sicily and Malta. Fast forward to Minoan Crete around 2000 BCE, trading decorated pottery and early script across Aegean shores. Next, Phoenician mariners from Tyre and Sidon with cedar ships navigated by stars spread the first alphabet across the sea. Then the Greeks founded Massalia, exporting philosophy and art. Finally, Rome claimed it Mare Nostrum, building roads, aqueducts, ports, a peaceful highway encircling the basin. But the real mysteries lie beneath those clear blue waters. A 2,500-year-old Greek shipwreck near Sicily buried in sand and rock could rewrite what we know about ancient navigation. Off Turkey's Antalya coast, a 2,000-year-old ceramic wreck revealed hundreds of perfectly preserved bowls and trays. And beneath the Gulf of Naples lies Baiae, Rome's infamous Sin City, now a submerged playground of villas, mosaics, and marble, frozen underwater by volcanic rumblings. Imagine if we could drain the Siwat ruins, shipwrecks, and cataclysms would be revealed. What disaster crippled Europe's first civilizations? Can an ancient hull tell secrets of Greece and Carthage at war? And what led to the end of Rome's Sin City, buried by its own land shifting beneath it? We're about to glide through this ocean of echoes, exploring every hidden wreck, drowned villa, and seismic secret. This is where our journey truly begins. The lifeline of an empire, the birth of Portus. Close your eyes and imagine a city unlike any other, a million souls pulsing through its streets. Their lives woven into the heartbeat of an empire that stretches from the sun-scorched sands of Egypt to the misty shores of Iberia. This is Rome, the eternal city, a colossus of ambition and hunger. But beneath its grandeur lies a fragile truth. Rome's survival depends on a single, precious thread. Without it, the city starves. Riots erupt, and the empire trembles. How do you feed 1,000,000 mouths when your city lies 20 miles from the sea? How do you tame nature itself to keep an empire alive? The answer lies hidden, buried beneath fields, crime, and runways, in a place called Portus Rome's greatest triumph and its most vital secret. Picture the Mediterranean, shimmering under a golden sun. A sea the Romans called Mare Nostrumer Sea. It was their highway, their lifeline, carrying olive oil, wine, and above all, grain from distant provinces. Yet Rome, for all its power, was stranded inland, tethered to the Tiber River, a fickle ally that could never fully serve the city's needs. For centuries, Rome made do with makeshift ports. First, there was the Forum Boreum, a humble river landing at the city's edge, where boats docked beneath the shadow of the Capitoline Hill. By the 4th century BC, it was clear this wouldn't suffice. Rome's appetite was growing, its gaze turning outward to the Mediterranean's vast trade networks. What did it mean to be a city without a true port? Could Rome ever become the empire it dreamed of without one? Enter Ostia, founded in 386 BC at the Tiber's mouth. a bold step to bridge Rome to the sea. Ostia was a lifeline, funneling grain, commerce and goods to a city stretching beyond its 7 hills. But Ostia had a fatal flaw. It's a river port, says archaeologist Simon Key, his voice heavy with the weight of history. The Tiber floods. Its mouth is treacherous, and it's not deep enough. As Rome's population soared past 1 million, Ostia buckled. Ships too large for the river waited offshore, their precious cargo delayed by storms or lost to the sea. Imagine the desperation families waiting for bread, emperors fearing unrest. How long could Rome survive on a port that couldn't keep up? By the 2nd century BC, Rome's reach spanned Italy, Greece, and North Africa. Its ships growing larger, sailing farther. The river port of Portus Tiberinus and Ostia couldn't handle the demand. Turned south to Puteoli, a natural harbor on the Bay of Naples, 100 miles from Rome. It was a marvel, welcoming massive vessels with ease. But the distance was a curse goods crawled overland or sailed 3 days to Ostia, a slow, costly journey. It's not ideal, Key murmurs, and you can almost hear the Romans' frustration. Was this the best they could do? Couldn't the masters of the world build something closer? Something better? By the 1st century AD, Rome was a titan. Its population feasting on 650 million pounds of grain, a year enough to bury the Colosseum in wheat. Egypt and North Africa became its breadbasket, their ships crossing the sea in a ceaseless dance. But storms could halt the fleet, and every delay sparked panic in Rome's streets. Emperors knew the truth. To rule was to feed. Augustus doled out grain to 250,000 households, a promise of stability. Yet without a deep water port nearby, that promise hung by a thread. What would it take to secure Rome's future? Who would dare to dream beyond the Tiber's limits? That dreamer was Claudius, an emperor often mocked, but with a vision that changed history. Around 46 AD, he launched a project so audacious it still takes our breath away. Portus wasn't just built, it was created. On a coastal strip 2 miles north of Ostia, the Romans carved a 500-acre basin from the dunes, flooding it with the sea. Two massive breakwaters stretched into the Mediterranean, embracing ships in a sheltered embrace. At their center, a lighthouse rose on an artificial island. Its flame, a defiant challenge to the darkness. Canals, 100 yards wide, linked Portus to the Tiber, speeding grain to Rome's tables. Warehouses towered, holding months of supplies. This was no mere port, it was Rome's salvation. It's a vanity project, Key says, a smile in his voice, but also the rhetoric of empire. The emperor overrides nature to feed his people. Claudius, and later Nero, basked in Portus's glory, their coins and arches proclaiming its triumph. But Portus was more than pomp, it was survival. For 400 years, it anchored Rome's port system, a hub for thousands of ships carrying the empire's lifeblood. What must it have felt like to stand on those docks, watching ships from every corner of the world? To know that this place held Rome together? Today, Portus lies silent, silted, and obscured by fields, and Fiumicino's runways. Yet, its story lives on. Thanks to the Portus Project, led by Key and a global team. Since the 1990s, they've peeled back its layers, using geophysics and careful excavation to reveal temples, warehouses, and canals. Portus needed to work at capacity for Rome to thrive. Key says, "Its fortunes are Rome's fortunes." Each discovery varied brick. Every shard whispers of a city that dared to reshape the world. But what else lies buried? What dreams and struggles did Portus witness? As we uncover its past, we're left wondering, how did this one port hold the key to an empire's soul? The ports of Rome, a tale of triumph and secrets. Imagine a city so vast, so powerful, that its very survival hinged on a ceaseless flow of grain from distant lands. This is Rome, the beating heart of an empire, a metropolis of millions in the ancient world. But Rome had a problem, a big one. To feed its people, it needed a port, a lifeline to the Mediterranean and beyond. For centuries, that lifeline was Ostia, a bustling river port nestled along the banks of the Tiber. But as Rome grew, Ostia faltered. Why? What went wrong? And what daring solution did the Romans devise to keep their empire alive? Picture yourself standing on the shores of Ostia, the air thick with the scent of salt and grain. Around you rise the ghosts of a once thriving hub, massive warehouses, the guild halls of shipping merchants, the ancient Capitoline temple gazing out over a sprawling plaza. This place has stories etched into its stones, stretching back to the 4th century BC. Ostia was Rome's gateway, a vital artery for the empire's lifeblood. The annona, the grain shipments from Egypt and North Africa. But here's the catch, Ostia wasn't built for the Rome it became. The Tiber, Ostia's backbone, was a double-edged sword. Its mouth was treacherous, choked with silt, and battered by unpredictable currents. ships struggled to navigate its shallow waters. And as Rome swelled into a superpower, its appetite grew too big for Ostia to satisfy. Massive vessels, 300-ton behemoths laden with grain, couldn't squeeze through the Tiber's narrow embrace. So, what do you do when your port can't keep up with your empire? If you're the Romans, you don't just adapt, you create. Enter Portus, a marvel born from necessity, just 3 kilometers north of Ostia. Portus wasn't just a port, it was a statement. Imagine this, a colossal hexagonal basin carved into the coastline, a man-made harbor where nature wouldn't cooperate. Romans dug deep, flooding the basin with seawater, then stretched 2 curving breakwaters out into the Mediterranean, their arms meeting to shield ships from the wild western waves. At the entrance stood a towering lighthouse, a beacon inspired by the legendary Pharos of Alexandria. How did they build it? They sank a giant ship, filled it with pozzolana cement, and turned it into an artificial islanda foundation for a light that guided mariners home. Under Emperor Nero, in 64 AD, Portus opened with fanfare, its glory minted on Roman coins. But what drove this audacious project? And what secrets does it still hold? tortoise wasn't just about brute force, it was precision engineering. A wide canal, later called the Fossa Traiana, stretched 30 meters across, linking the harbor to the Tiber. Barges glided along it, ferrying grain straight to Rome's hungry masses. Another canal, uncovered by modern geophysics, hints at the Romans' meticulous planning, drainage, communication, constructional woven into this masterpiece. Under Trajan, Portus evolved further. Lavish buildings lined its edges. A rectangular temple, possibly to Liber Pater, god of wine and freedom, flanked by rows of warehouses that greeted arriving ships with grandeur. To the south, near the canal, goods flowed seamlessly from sea giants to river barges. But the northwest corner? That's where the mystery deepens. Archaeologists once unearthed columns buried underground, semicircular rooms with mosaic floors, even a small theater. A palace they thought fit for an emperor. But today's experts aren't so sure. Geophysical surveys suggest smaller warehouses, not royal halls. The layout remains elusive, a puzzle begging for more digs. What was this place? A hub of trade? A retreat for the elite? Or something else entirely? The Earth hasn't told us yet, Then there's the jaw-dropping find from the air. Aerial photos revealed shadows of the past. 3, maybe 4 massive temples, each in its own precinct, plus a possible triumphal arch. One might even be an early Christian basilica. Temples in a trade port? Who built them? Were they shrines for sailors, offerings to gods of sea and commerce, or something more sacred? How did faith and freight collide in this sprawling complex? These discoveries don't just rewrite maps, they rewrite stories. Portus was Rome's window to the world. Picture the docks alive with activity. Amphorae-huge clay jars brimming with olive oil from southern Spain stacked high, bound for the capital. Those jars didn't stop in Rome. Shattered and discarded, they piled up into Monte Testaccio, a mountain of broken pottery that whispers tales of a vast trade network. Every shard is a clue, a breadcrumb leading us through the Mediterranean's ancient highways. What else traveled through Portus? Spices, silks, secrets. How did this port shape the empire and the world? Today, Porta stands as a testament to Roman grit and genius. It tamed the sea, defied the odds, and kept Rome alive. But it's more than a relic, it's a living question mark. New excavations peel back layers of time, revealing hints of what once was. Stand by its hexagonal basin now, and you can almost hear it. The creak of ships, the shouts of dock workers, the hum of a global empire at work. Yet with every answer, new riddles emerge. What lies beneath the silt and soil? What forgotten chapters of Rome's saga wait to be unearthed? This isn't just history, it's a journey. Portas challenges us to look closer, to dig deeper. How did a single port hold the key to an empire's survival? What drove the Romans to dream so big and build even bigger? And as we uncover more, what will Portas teach us about the people who made it, the world they shaped, and the legacy they left behind? The past isn't silent here, it's calling. Are you ready to listen? The fall of Portus, a sacrifice for Rome. Imagine twilight settling over Portus, the air heavy with salt and dread. The hexagonal basin, that dazzling jewel we marveled at in Part 2, glimmers faintly, a ghostly echo of the empire's pulse. This port, forged by Claudius's vision to feed Rome's starving millions, as we saw in Part 1, once welcomed ships laden with grain, wine, and dreams. In Part 2, we stood in awe of Trajan's lighthouse, its flame a beacon and a palace radiant with mosaics, unearthed by Simon Key's tireless digs. But now, a story of betrayal unfolds. Portus, Rome's lifeline, wasn't felled by invaders. It was deliberately raised by the Byzantines, Rome's own heirs, to save a crumbling city. Why sacrifice the port that defined an empire? What drove such a desperate act? In Part 1, we felt Rome's hunger, a city outgrowing Ostia's shallow river, saved by Claudius's canals that carried grain from sea to table. Part 2 revealed Portus's golden age under Trajan, its basin alive with trade, its palace a testament to Rome's might, as Key's surveys showed us temples and docks. But as Rome's empire fractured, the Byzantines, led by General Belisarius, faced a dire threat. The Ostrogoths, barbarian kings who'd seized Italy, eyed Portus's strategic harbor, those same docks that fed Rome. If captured, Portus could choke the city, arming enemies with its grain stores. So, the Byzantines made a heart-wrenching choice: destroy their own port to deny it to the foe. Can you feel the anguish of that moment? Choosing Rome's survival over its legacy. Picture Portus in its prime. Ships crowd the basin, their creaking timbers a song of plenty, answering the cry for food. The palace shimmers, its marble pool catching torchlight, a marvel. Warehouses groan with bounty. An amphitheater hums with life. But then, Key's recent excavations reveal a stark truth. No fire, no decay-only calculated ruin. Walls adorned with gods lie shattered. The palace's mosaics, Neptune's gaze, crumble to dust. Portus was Rome's soul, Key says, voice heavy, but they tore it apart to save the city. Imagine Belisarius's soldiers, hearts breaking, as they topple Trajan's grandeur to protect Claudius's dream. What would you do? Standing in their place, hammer in hand. This wasn't mere destruction, it was strategy. The Byzantines, reclaiming Rome in a brutal war, knew Portus's canals could betray them, funneling Ostrogoth supplies. Key's digs show walls pushed over with purpose, docks silenced to starve the enemy. Portus's fall mirrors Rome's own its stones, a sacrifice for a city fighting to breathe. Who whispered prayers as the lighthouse dimmed? If you could save one relic, Trajan's mosaics or Claudius' canals, what's your choice? Comment below, let's hear your heart. The tale of Portus is a journey through Rome's soul, from its desperate quest for a port to feed an empire, to the dazzling rise of a maritime marvel, and its heartbreaking destruction by those who loved Rome most. Across 3 parts, we've uncovered a story of ingenuity, ambition, and sacrifice, etched in the stones of a port that shaped history. Curious about what mysteries await? Subscribe, like, and share to join us on this adventure through Europe's untold past.